Yeah, well, anything can happen in this modern media age, and I think the story about Kelly is very instructive. I mean, Kelly's death has been suspicious from the get-go. In our film, Anthrax-War, we interview a member of Parliament, Norman Baker, who takes a full year off from his responsibilities to investigate Kelly's death. This is no out of mainstream guy. He's a member of the British Parliament, and he ends up writing a book called The Strange Death of David Kelly, and he says David Kelly was murdered. And this is an astounding claim that has just been endorsed by 13 leading British doctors who have petitioned and hired a lawyer to ask that the Brown government in England, which is now considering a review of the Blair policies that led to the war in Iraq. They have 4 areas they want to investigate, from the Downing Street memo, which you know about, etc., to the death of David Kelly. And basically, the rap on Kelly is the most telling piece of evidence that MP Norman Baker discovered was that the knife he supposedly used as he went to the woods, all depressed about being officially sacrificed by the British government as a leak that destroyed their case for war. All depressed, he went into the woods and he took a knife, he slit his wrists, and he swallowed some tablets from his wife's medicine cabinet. What Baker got the police to admit was that there was no fingerprints on the knife. Well, how do you kill yourself with no fingerprints, no glove? And the Kelly murder, and I don't say suicide, I say murder, because I really do believe it was a murder, as do 70% of the British public and a growing percentage of the opinion leaders in the UK. Who killed Kelly becomes a very important piece of business. And he becomes the poster boy, poster child, poster man for these, 100 or so other suspicious deaths of microbiologists. In fact, one of the things we mentioned to a member of Parliament who has mentioned to us that he'll be entering interviews we did for our film into the official parliamentary inquiry into Kelly's death and the rush to war. Basically, he said that the Kelly death combined with the death of Kelly's successor as the head of microbiology, the germ warfare plant at Porton Down in England. He died in a light airplane crash, a suspicious crash 11 months after Kelly. It's kind of mind-blowing. What we do in our film, Anthrax-War, and we do in our book, Dead Silence, is we begin to show that to work in this field of germ warfare is dangerous to your health because you end up killing yourself, suicide, the official story, or something else worse happens to you.
Yeah, I mean, also you got to look at what are these guys doing, and we decided to look at Kelly and what was his job in germ warfare. What was he doing, and what was he doing at Porton Down, this lab, which is the U.S. Defense Department's, the United Kingdom's secret lab where they do all their germ research. And one of the things that we discovered was that Porton Down has got a long history of human experiments of testing bioweapons on volunteers
and chemical. They actually killed some people in association with that. I've had some of their family members on. They'd march them in, tell them they were going to test a bio, hit them with sarin or VX.
Exactly.
But expanding on that, I found they create their cadres of killers at these things, too. They find scientists that believe the end justifies the means, and then sometimes they kind of wake up and realize what's happened. That's why they've got to be killed. But I just want to add, before we run out of time here, to blitz through other key points made in the film, people need to support alternative news, filmmakers, and cinema. And you guys are great filmmakers, award-winning filmmakers. I went over your bio earlier. Anthrax-War needs to be seen, and we've got these up on Infowars.com. They're available. I want everybody to get the full picture in this film at Infowars.com. Anthrax-War, a film by Bob Coen and Eric Nadler. Again, available at Infowars.com or 888-253-3139. Mr. Coen, go ahead and finish the point you were making when I interrupted there. And then in the time we've got left, rattle off some of the other key points and interesting things, because there's so much in this film and then so much other stuff I'm sure you discovered that you didn't have time to put in the film.
Well, we were talking about David Kelly, and we discovered, that David Kelly was working at Porton Down, where, he headed the microbiology department for many years there. And they were involved, like you said, in human experiments at Porton Down on these servicemen. And there was a huge police investigation by the local police there into these human experiments, and they were looking at scientists, and quite possibly Kelly's was a target of this investigation. The other thing we discovered about Kelly was his relationship with the apartheid era, South African apartheid era secret germ weapons program. During the apartheid years, South Africa had a small but very sophisticated germ war program, and one of the aims of this program was to come up with something that they called the black bomb, and that was an ethnic weapon,
race-specific bioweapon. And Cheney then wrote about that. We're going to come back and discuss that after this quick break in the final segment. Cheney, in his September 20th, 2000, Rebuilding America's Defenses, said we need to legitimize the use of these race-specific bioweapons. So, gentlemen, I'm glad you got into that. I forgot to bring that up. And just amazing information. Of course, you interview the head of the South African program. It's Anthrax-War, available at Infowars.com. Folks, you got to get this movie. This needs to be seen by everybody. We've got to point out this false flag event.